The family meeting that changed my life forever. I never imagined that a simple family invitation would turn into the biggest betrayal of my life. But before I get to that decisive moment, I need to tell you how it all started. Because the signs were always there. I just chose not to see them. My name is Sarah, and I've been married to Daniel Montero for 5 years. 5 years that, looking back, seem like an eternity of small, silent battles, forced smiles, and words I swallowed to keep the peace. I met Daniel at a downtown coffee shop. I was working as a freelance graphic designer. He was an engineer at the family business. From the first moment, there was chemistry. He was kind, intelligent, with a sense of humor that made me laugh even on my worst days. For the first 6 months, it was perfect. Until I met his family. The first dinner at the Montero house was an experience I'll never forget. The mansion in San Elias Hills was imposing. 3 floors of modern architecture, perfectly manicured gardens, a fountain at the entrance. Everything screamed money and power. Elena, my future mother-in-law, greeted me with a smile that didn't reach her eyes. She evaluated me from head to toe in 2 seconds, and I immediately knew I had failed some invisible test. "So you're Sarah," she said, pronouncing my name as if it were a foreign word. "Daniel has told us so much about you." That night, I met the whole family. Hector, the patriarch, a serious businessman who barely spoke to me. Carla, Daniel's older sister, with her constant look of superiority. And Marco, the younger brother, the only one who seemed genuinely kind. During dinner, every comment was a test, every question an interrogation disguised as courtesy. "And what do your parents do?" Elena asked. "My father is a carpenter, and my mother is a teacher," I answered with pride. The silence that followed was deafening. Carla and Elena exchanged a look that said it all. "How interesting," Elena finally murmured. Daniel squeezed my hand under the table. That gesture gave me strength to survive the rest of the evening. Despite his family's clear disapproval, Daniel and I got married a year later. It was a beautiful wedding, although every detail became a battlefield. Elena wanted a traditional Catholic ceremony at the cathedral. I wanted something more intimate in a garden. We reached a compromise that left no one happy. "I don't understand why everything has to be so simple," Carla commented while reviewing the invitations. "In our family, weddings are important events." "It's our wedding, Carla," Daniel responded firmly. "Respect our decisions." But after the honeymoon, things changed. Daniel started working longer hours at the family business. Sunday dinners at the Montero house became mandatory, and I started disappearing a little each day. The criticisms were constant, but subtle, like drops of poison diluted in glasses of expensive wine. "Sarah, don't you think that dress is a bit flashy for a family dinner?" Elena, "Daniel mentioned you're still not thinking about children. How curious, at your age I already had 2. Elena again, "My friend knows an excellent image consultant. I could give you her number." Carla, with a poisonous smile. Each comment came wrapped in false concern, impossible to confront without seeming paranoid or too sensitive. And Daniel loved his family. He defended them without even realizing they were destroying me little by little. "They don't mean it badly, love," he would tell me. "That's how they communicate. They're direct." Direct. That was the word he used to justify cruelty disguised as honesty. The months turned into years. I stopped arguing. I stopped defending myself. I became a silent version of myself, always trying to be good enough, polite enough, invisible enough. It was during the 3rd year of marriage when I started noticing strange things. Daniel began receiving calls that made him tense. Hushed arguments with his father, family meetings from which I was excluded. "It's business stuff," he would explain, "nothing to worry about." But I worried, because the joint bank account we had opened started showing movements I didn't recognize. Large transfers to accounts Daniel said were family investments or temporary loans. One night, after another uncomfortable dinner at San Elias Hills, I found Daniel in his study, his head in his hands. "Are you okay?" I asked. "Just tired," he responded without looking at me. "Daniel, is something going on? With the money, with the company?" He tensed immediately. "Everything's fine. My family knows what they're doing. Trust me." But I no longer trusted. Not completely. So I started investigating. At first it was just curiosity. I reviewed bank statements, searched for documents, but what I found was much worse than I had imagined. Loans in Daniel's name that he didn't know about, transfers to offshore accounts, failed investments that had been covered with our money without consulting us, and something else, something that would make all of this explode. Consistent monthly payments to an account under the name Adrian Villegas, thousands of dollars for years. I dug deeper. Adrian Villegas was a family friend. He appeared in old photographs, always near Hector. Too close. My father-in-law, the respectable businessman, the patriarch of the Montero family, had a secret worth millions to keep hidden. That's when I started preparing. I hired a lawyer privately. Mauricio Rivera, specialized in financial fraud and family law. I showed him everything I had found. "This is serious," he said, flipping through the documents. "We're talking about fraud, embezzlement, possible money laundering. If all this is true, they could face criminal charges." "And Daniel?" I asked, heartbroken. "Him too?" Mauricio looked at me with compassion. "If it can be proven that he didn't know, that he was manipulated, then he's just another victim. But you'll need evidence of that too." I spent 3 months collecting everything. Every document, every transfer, every email I could find. Mauricio helped me organize it all legally, making sure every piece of evidence was admissible. I also hired a private investigator, Martin Suarez, a former police detective. He was the one who confirmed the relationship between Hector and Adrian. Photographs, text messages, hotel reservations, everything. "Your family has been using the company's money and yours to keep this secret," Martin explained. "The payments to Adrian are basically reverse blackmail. Hector pays him to keep him happy and quiet." Throughout this time, I continued with my normal life. I smiled at family dinners. I nodded when Elena made her hurtful comments. I pretended not to notice Carla's contemptuous looks, but inside, I was preparing for war. Then came that Thursday night. Carla's message that would change everything. I was at home, preparing dinner, when my phone buzzed. "This Sunday there will be a family meeting at Mom's house. It's important. It's a surprise. Don't tell Daniel." I read the message 3 times. Each word confirmed what I had suspected for months. They were planning something. I showed the message to Lucy, my best friend from college. She was the only person who knew what was really going on in my marriage. "Sarah," she said seriously, "this sounds like an ambush." "I know. Are you going to go?" I smiled, a smile Lucy knew well. "Of course I'm going to go. I've been waiting for this moment." That weekend, I finalized all the preparations. Mauricio and I reviewed each document one more time. We had 3 folders prepared. The first contained all the evidence of financial fraud, years of illegal transfers, false loans, falsified invoices. The second was the nuclear bomb, evidence of Hector's relationship with Adrian and the payments to keep it hidden. Not only was it personally devastating, but it also showed misuse of family business funds. The third was my ace up my sleeve, recordings. Over the last 6 months, I had discreetly recorded several family conversations. In my state, it was legal to record conversations you're part of. And those recordings showed Elena, Hector, and Carla openly talking about how to handle the Sarah problem, how to protect the family assets, and most incriminating, how to convince her to leave nicely before it has to be the hard way. That Sunday, I woke up early. I dressed carefully. A black pantsuit, elegant but powerful. I applied my makeup meticulously. If this was going to be my last performance in front of the Montero family, I was going to be perfect. Before leaving, I left a note for Daniel. I'm at your parents' house. There's a family meeting. I suggest you come in an hour. You need to be there. Love, Sarah. I knew he would be confused, that he would call his mother, and that she would tell him to come. Because once I dropped my bomb, they would want Daniel there for damage control. I drove to San Elias Hills calmly. My heart was beating hard, but my mind was clear. I had rehearsed this moment 100 times. The house looked the same as always. Imposing. Perfect. Cold. I rang the doorbell. Carla opened the door with a smile that tried to seem friendly, but couldn't hide the triumph in her eyes. Sarah, so glad you could come. Wouldn't miss it for anything, I replied, entering. The scene in the dining room was exactly as I had anticipated. Not only were Daniel's parents and siblings there were also Uncle Roberto and Aunt Mercedes, the older cousins, even Grandma Beatrice, the 85-year-old matriarch who rarely left her room, everyone sitting around the mahogany table, everyone silent, everyone looking at me. In the center of the table, like a piece of evidence at a trial, was the gray folder. "Sit down, Sarah," Elena ordered, pointing to the chair across from her. I didn't sit. "First of all, I'd like to know what's going on," I said in a calm voice. Hector cleared his throat. "Sarah, this is difficult for all of us, but we've reached a decision as a family." "A decision," I repeated, "about my life? Without consulting me? Without consulting Daniel?" "Daniel is our son," Elena intervened. "We know what's best for him." Carla leaned forward. "Look, there's no point prolonging this. We all know this marriage was a mistake from the beginning. You've never fit in here. You're different." "Different?" I asked. "You mean I don't come from money? That my parents worked honestly to earn their living instead of stealing from their own children?" The silence that followed was absolute. "How dare you—" Elena began, but Hector stopped her with a gesture. "Getting emotional won't get us anywhere," he said in a controlled voice. "Sarah, here are the papers. Very generous terms, all things considered. $50,000, no alimony claim. All you have to do is sign and quietly disappear from Daniel's life." I took the folder. I opened it. Divorce papers, indeed, already completed. Only my signature was missing, and Daniel's, which obviously they planned to forge or pressure him to sign later. $50,000? I said, almost laughing. "That's the price you put on 5 years of my life? On 5 years of being your emotional punching bag?" "It's more than you deserve," Carla blurted out. "Carla," her grandmother Beatrice reprimanded, speaking for the first time. The elderly woman was looking at me with what could have been compassion. "This isn't right." "Grandma, you don't understand the situation," Elena began. "I understand perfectly," Beatrice replied with a trembling but firm voice. "You're doing exactly what they did to me 60 years ago, but I didn't have the courage this young woman seems to have." Everyone was shocked. Grandma Beatrice's story was a well-kept family secret. Only rumors of a first marriage that didn't work out. "Grandma, please," Hector said, uncomfortable. But I had seen enough. It was time. I bent down and took out my own folder from my bag. I placed it on the table next to the divorce papers. "How interesting," I said calmly, "because I also prepared some documents. I thought since we're having a family meeting, we should put all the cards on the table." Hector slowly extended his hand and took my folder. As he read, I watched his face go from healthy tan to sickly gray. "What is this?" Elena asked, trying to snatch the papers from him. "It's evidence," I replied, "of fraud, of embezzlement, of theft, all very well documented." I opened my laptop and placed it on the table. With a click, I showed a detailed spreadsheet. "Over the last 5 years, you've stolen approximately $2 million from Daniel's accounts. Loans he never authorized, false investments, personal expenses disguised as business expenses." "This is ridiculous," Hector spat. "I'm the president of the company. I have authority over—" "Over the company accounts, yes, but not over Daniel's personal accounts, and definitely not to create false loans in his name without his consent. That's called identity fraud. Carla stood up abruptly. Where did you get this? This is invasion of privacy. It's our financial information, I replied calmly. As Daniel's wife, I have legal right to access our joint accounts, and from there, well, it was easy to follow the money trail. Uncle Roberto, who had remained silent until that moment, reviewed the documents with growing horror. Hector, he said slowly, tell me this isn't real. Roberto, I can explain. These are family business funds, Roberto practically shouted. My money is in there too. Are you telling me you've been stealing from the company? It's not stealing, Hector defended himself. They're investments, tax strategies. They're crimes, I interrupted. I took out the second folder. But that's not all. This time, it was Elena who took the papers. As she read, her hand began to tremble. Her eyes filled with tears. Adrian Villegas, I read aloud. Monthly payments of $15,000 for the last 7 years. That adds up to, let me see, $1,260,000, all from family business accounts. The silence was deafening. Who is Adrian Villegas? Aunt Mercedes finally asked. Elena looked at Hector with a mixture of betrayal and horror. Tell them, Hector, I said. Tell your family who Adrian is. Sarah, you have no idea what you're talking about, Hector said, but his voice trembled. Don't I? I have photographs, text messages, hotel records. God, Hector, you weren't even careful. You used the company credit card to pay for the rooms. Carla looked confused, looking between her father and mother. Dad, what is she saying? He's his lover, I said directly. Adrian Villegas is your father's lover. He's been in a relationship with him for at least a decade, and he's been using family business money they've stolen from Daniel, to keep him quiet and happy. The explosion that followed was chaotic. Mercedes started screaming. Roberto demanded to see the evidence. Carla was in shock, looking at her father as if she didn't know him. Marco, the younger brother who had remained silent, ran out of the room. But I kept my gaze fixed on Elena. Did you know? Her sister Mercedes asked. Elena didn't respond. She didn't need to. The tears running down her carefully made-up face said it all. Of course she knew, I said quietly. That's why she's so desperate to keep up appearances. That's why she hates anyone who isn't appropriate for the family so much, because she's been living a lie for decades. You know nothing, Elena whispered. I know more than you think. I took out my phone and played a recording. Elena's voice filled the room. We need to get rid of her before she discovers too much. Hector has been careless, and that girl is smarter than she looks. If Daniel finds out about Adrian, about the loans, about everything, we'll lose control over him completely. Carla's voice responded, And what do you suggest? We can't just ask for a divorce. No, but we can pressure her, make her feel so uncomfortable, so unwelcome, that she wants to leave on her own. And if that doesn't work, well, there are more direct ways. The recording ended. That was 3 months ago, I said. At Marco's birthday dinner, you thought I was in the bathroom. Actually, I was outside the study door. Carla looked pale. Sarah, that's not what it seems. Really? Because it sounds exactly like conspiracy to coerce and maybe something worse. More direct ways? Elena, what does that mean exactly? I was upset, Elena tried to explain. I wasn't serious. We would never, like you also wouldn't forge divorce documents? Like you wouldn't steal from your own son? Forgive me if I don't believe anything that comes out of your mouth. It was exactly at that moment that the front door opened. Mom? What's going on? I got your message saying... Daniel stopped short when he saw the scene. His family around the table, documents scattered everywhere, his mother crying, his father with his head in his hands, and me, standing in the center of it all, calm as the eye of a hurricane. Sarah, he said, confused. What? Daniel, I said in a clear voice. Your family tried to force me to sign divorce papers behind your back." I handed him the gray documents. He read them, and I saw his entire body tense. "Is this real?" he asked, looking at his mother. Elena opened her mouth, but no sound came out. "It's real," I said, "but there's more. Much more. Your family has been stealing from you for years." I passed him my laptop with the spreadsheets. Daniel sat heavily in a chair as he reviewed everything. "2 million, he murmured. "Dad, is this true?" "Daniel, son, I can explain." "Explain what?" Daniel shouted, and we all jumped. I had never heard him yell like that. "How do you explain stealing from me for 5 years? How do you explain using my name for loans I never authorized?" "It was to protect the company," Hector tried to explain. "We had some financial problems, investments that went wrong. We just needed time to—" "And this?" Daniel took the folder about Adrian. "What is this?" A deadly silence fell. "Daniel," I began softly, "your father has a relationship with a man named Adrian Villegas. He's been using company money to keep it hidden for years." Daniel looked at his father as if he were seeing a stranger. "Is it true?" Hector couldn't look him in the eyes. "Yes, it's true." "And Mom knew?" Elena nodded slowly, tears flowing freely now. Daniel stood up, backing away from the table, as if suddenly his entire family was toxic. "For how long?" His voice broke. "How long have you been lying to me? Using me?" "We wanted to protect you," Elena said weakly. "No!" Daniel roared. "Don't do that. Don't pretend this was for me. This was for you, to protect your secrets, to maintain your perfect image. And for that, what? You stole from me? You tried to destroy my marriage? What else?" He turned to me. "How long have you known?" 3 months for most of it, I admitted. "But I started noticing strange things over a year ago." "Why didn't you tell me?" "Because you would have protected them," I said honestly. "Because you love them, and they knew it. That's why they planned this today. They wanted me to disappear before you had to choose." Daniel ran his hands through his hair, destroyed. "What do we do now?" I slid a set of documents toward him, documents that Mauricio and I had prepared. "First, you sign these documents completely separating your finances from your families. Second, we press charges for fraud." "You can't be serious," Carla shouted. "It's our family." "Family," I repeated bitterly. "You know what? For 5 years, I tried to be part of this family. You humiliated me. You ignored me. You made me feel like I wasn't good enough. And all this time, you were the ones who weren't good enough. Not for Daniel. Not for anyone." "Sarah is right," a weak voice said. We all turned. It was Grandma Beatrice. She had stood up, leaning on her cane. "You have dishonored this family in ways I never imagined possible," she continued. "Stealing, lying, manipulating, and all for what? To keep up appearances?" "Mom," Hector began. "Don't call me Mom," the elderly woman shouted with more force than I thought possible. "A son of mine wouldn't do these things. The family I helped build wouldn't do these things." She turned to me. "Sarah, do what you have to do. You have my blessing. And Daniel," she looked at her grandson, "support your wife. She's the only person in this room who's been honest with you." With that, Grandma left the room, each step heavy with disappointment. Daniel looked at me. I could see it in his eyes. The agony of having to choose between the family he had known all his life and the truth he had just discovered. "What do you want me to do?" he asked quietly. "I want you to do the right thing," I replied. "Not for me, for you." He took the documents. He read them carefully. Then he took a pen. "Daniel, no," Elena shouted. "If you sign that, if you press charges against your own father—" "What?" Daniel interrupted her. "You'll stop loving me? You'll stop stealing from me? I think that ship has sailed." He signed each page methodically. "Now," I said, "the criminal charges. I have all the evidence ready. Your family will face charges for fraud, forgery, embezzlement. "Wait," Daniel said, putting his hand on mine. "Let me talk to them. Alone. Please." I hesitated, but nodded. He deserved this moment with his family. I took my folders and went out to the garden. Lucy appeared 15 minutes later. She had been waiting outside the whole time, ready to intervene if anything went wrong. "Are you okay?" she asked. I don't know, relieved, angry, sad? Probably all of that. We waited 30 more minutes before Daniel came out. He looked exhausted, destroyed, but there was also something different in his eyes: determination. "I gave them a choice," he said. "They can transfer all the money they stole back to our accounts, plus interest. They can voluntarily dissolve the family business and divide the assets equitably among all the siblings and shareholders, and they can go to family therapy. And if they don't, then we press all charges, publicly." What did they say? "My father is talking to his lawyers now. My mother is broken. Carla blames me for not controlling my wife." For the first time in hours, I smiled. And Marco? Marco says he didn't know anything about this, and I believe him. He's as angry as I am. "And you? Are you okay?" Daniel hugged me. For the first time in years, I felt he was really choosing me. "No, but I will be, thanks to you." The following weeks were a whirlwind. The Montero family, with their lawyers, accepted Daniel's terms. $2 million were transferred back to our accounts. The family business, Montero Industrial, was officially dissolved. The assets were divided among Hector, his siblings, and the minority shareholders who never knew about the fraud. But the money was just the beginning. The news leaked, as it always does in small social circles. We didn't publish anything, we didn't talk to the press, but people talk. Rumors fly. In San Elias Hills, the fall of the Monteros was the scandal of the year. Elena stopped attending her social events. The country club where she had been president for a decade discreetly asked her to resign. Her friends, those women who had flattered her for years, stopped returning her calls. Hector faced even more severe consequences. Although we avoided criminal charges, the Chamber of Commerce initiated its own investigation. He lost his membership on 3 boards of directors. His reputation, built over 30 years, crumbled in weeks. And Adrian disappeared. Once the money stopped, so did he. Carla tried to blame me publicly. She posted on social media about manipulative wives and families destroyed by greed. But Marco, bless him, responded publicly with a simple statement: "My family destroyed itself with lies and fraud. Sarah only exposed the truth." Carla's post was deleted within hours. The comments had been devastating for her. Daniel and I moved out of the city, not far, just enough to have space and fresh air. We bought a modest house, nothing compared to the San Elias Hills mansion, but it was ours, really ours. The first months were the hardest. Daniel fell into depression. He had not only lost his family, but also the image he had of them. The betrayal wasn't just financial, it was existential. "How did I not see it?" he constantly asked me. All those times they asked me for loans for the company, all those investments they urgently needed. How was I so blind? "You weren't blind," I would tell him. "You trusted the people who were supposed to love you unconditionally. That doesn't make you stupid, it makes you human." He started therapy. Individually first, then couples therapy with me. We needed to heal, both individually and in our relationship, because although I had won, the process had also changed me. For months, I had operated in survival mode, collecting evidence, planning, preparing for war. I had built walls so high that Daniel couldn't reach me. "I'm angry with you," he told me one night during a session. "Not for what you did with my family, that was necessary, but I'm angry because you didn't trust me. You kept me in the dark for 3 months." He was right, and it hurt to admit it. "I was afraid," I confessed. "Afraid you would choose them. Afraid you would think I was exaggerating or being paranoid. Your family had made me feel crazy for years. I couldn't risk you doing the same." "But I'm your husband," he said with tears in his eyes. "We were supposed to face this together." "I know, and I'm sorry." That was the first of many difficult conversations. Little by little, we learned to trust again. It wasn't quick, it wasn't easy, but it was real. 3 months after the confrontation, I received an unexpected call. "Sarah, it's Beatrice, Daniel's grandmother. We hadn't spoken since that Sunday. I'd like to invite you to lunch," she said. "Just the two of us, if you feel comfortable." I hesitated, but something in her voice made me accept. We met at a discreet downtown restaurant. Beatrice arrived with her assistant, but asked her to wait outside. "Thank you for coming," she began. "I know my family hasn't given you reasons to trust any Montero." "You were the only one who defended me that day," I said. "Because I saw something of myself in you," she replied, her elderly but sharp eyes. "Did I ever tell you about my first marriage?" I shook my head. "I married at 18 to the son of another wealthy family. It was what was expected. But I didn't fit in. I was too independent, too opinionated. His family organized exactly the same kind of meeting they tried with you." She paused, the memories clearly painful even after decades. "What happened?" I asked gently. "I signed," she said simply. "I didn't have the resources you had. I didn't have the strength. So I signed, took their money, and disappeared. It took years before I could rebuild my life. I met Augusto, Daniel's grandfather, when I was 30. He was different, kind, honest." "I'm sorry," I said. "Don't be. But I want you to know something." She leaned forward. "What you did, standing up for yourself like that, exposing the truth even when it was painful, that took courage I didn't have. I'm proud of you, and I know Augusto would be too." We started having lunch regularly. Beatrice became an unexpected ally, a mother figure I never had in the Montero family. She told me stories about Daniel as a child, before family expectations shaped him. She helped me understand how the toxic dynamic had developed over generations. "Elena wasn't born cruel," she explained one day, "but she married the idea of the Monteros, not the man. When she discovered the truth about Hector, she had already invested too much in the image, so she chose the lie. And that lie required more lies, more control, more cruelty." "Why didn't she divorce him?" Beatrice smiled sadly. "The same fear I had. What will people say? What will happen to the children? Who am I without this last name? Sometimes the cages we build are stronger than any real prison." Marco, Daniel's younger brother, became another positive surprise. 2 weeks after the confrontation, he showed up at our door with a box of pizzas and an apology. "I know I didn't know everything," he said, "but I should have seen it. I should have defended you at those dinners. All those times Mom and Carla attacked you, I just stayed quiet, and that makes me complicit." Daniel hugged him. So did I. Marco was only 23, fresh out of college. He had been so focused on his studies that he had remained oblivious to the family toxicity. "I cut contact with Dad and Mom," he told us. "Not completely, but I don't live with them anymore. I got an apartment, I'm looking for work outside the family contact network." "How are they taking it?" Daniel asked. "Mom cries. Dad barely talks to me. Carla says I'm betraying them." He shrugged. "But you're my brother, and Sarah is right. What they did was unforgivable." Marco became our bridge to what could be a healthy family. He came to dinner on Fridays. He played video games with Daniel. He taught me about cryptocurrencies and new technologies. "You know what's the weirdest thing?" he said one night. "I never realized how toxic our family was until I saw what a normal relationship is like. You guys talk, you laugh, you argue without yelling. It's nice." "That's how it should always be," I said. "Yeah, I guess so." 6 months passed before Elena tried to contact me. It was a simple text message. "Sarah, could we talk? Just us. I owe you an apology." I showed the message to Daniel. "Do you want to go?" he asked. "I don't know. Part of me wants to hear what she has to say. Another part knows it's probably just another manipulation." "Whatever it is, you'll face it," he said confidently. "And this time, you have allies." I agreed to meet her at a public cafe. Neutral. Safe. Elena arrived different. Without the perfect makeup, without the ostentatious jewelry. She looked small. Human. "Thank you for coming," she said, her voice hoarse. "What do you want, Elena?" "To apologize. Really." She took a sip of coffee with trembling hands. "I don't expect you to forgive me. I don't deserve your forgiveness. But I needed you to know that. You're right. About everything." I remained silent, waiting. "I lived a lie for 20 years, she continued. "When I discovered about Hector and Adrian, I should have left him. I should have protected my children. But I was so afraid. Afraid of the scandal, of judgment, of losing my social position." "So you chose to control everything else," I said. "Control your children? Control their relationships? Destroy anyone who threatened your house of cards?" "Yes." Tears ran down her face. "And in the process, I lost my children. Daniel barely talks to me. Marco cut me off completely. Carla. Carla is the only one left, and only because she's as miserable as I am." I felt no satisfaction seeing her broken, only deep sadness. "Why did you hate me so much?" I asked. "What did I really do?" "Nothing," she admitted. "And that's what scared me. You were genuine, honest. You weren't impressed by our money or status. And Daniel loved you in a way he could never love me. He chose you over us, and I couldn't stand it. So you tried to destroy me." "Yes, and instead I destroyed myself." We sat in silence for a long moment. "I don't know if I can ever forgive you," I finally said. "What you did caused deep damage, not just to me, but to Daniel. But I appreciate the honesty." Finally. "It's all I can offer," Elena said. "That and the promise that I won't interfere in your life or Daniel's anymore. If someday he wants to have a relationship with me again, it will be on his terms, not mine." She got up to leave, then stopped. "For what it's worth, you were perfect for him from the beginning. I was too much of a coward to admit it." I watched her leave, hunched and alone. 1 year after that fateful Sunday, Daniel and I organized a small dinner. We invited Marco, Grandma Beatrice, Lucy, and my family, my parents, my brother. It was the first time our real families, the people who genuinely loved us, gathered at our house. My father, the carpenter Elena had despised, helped Daniel build a new deck. My mother, the teacher, shared stories that made Beatrice laugh until she cried. "This," Daniel said, taking my hand during dinner, "this is what a family should be." Marco raised his glass. "To the families we choose, not just the ones we're given." We all toasted. Later that night, as we cleaned up, Daniel hugged me from behind. "You know what amazes me most?" he said. "What?" "That despite everything that happened, all the pain and betrayal, we ended up stronger. We ended up with something real." "Was it worth it?" I asked. It was a question I had asked myself many times. "Every second," he replied without hesitation, "because now I know who you really are, a warrior, my warrior." "And do you know who you are?" I asked, turning to look at him. "I'm learning," he admitted. "Without their expectations, without the constant pressure to be the perfect son, I'm discovering who I am, and I like the person I'm finding." I received one last letter from Hector 6 months later. I didn't open it immediately. I left it on the kitchen table for days, wondering what the man who had orchestrated so much pain could possibly say. Finally, on a rainy afternoon, I opened it. It was handwritten in his careful script. "Sarah, I don't expect your forgiveness. I don't deserve it. But I need you to know some things. I've been in therapy, individual and with Elena. For the first time in my life, I'm being honest about who I really am. It's terrifying and liberating at the same time. I'm gay. I've been gay my whole life. But I grew up in an era and environment where that was unthinkable. So I got married, had children, built the empire my father expected, and destroyed lives in the process. I don't justify what I did, stealing from my own son, trying to destroy your marriage. It was cruel, criminal, and cowardly. But I want you to understand the context not as an excuse, but as an explanation. I was so trapped in my own prison of lies that I couldn't bear to see someone living freely in their truth. You were that person, authentic, unapologetic, and I hated you for it. I've returned the money. I've faced the consequences. I've lost my reputation, my company, my children's respect, and I deserve it all. But I'm finally being honest. With Elena, with my children, with myself. It's late, too late, but it's a start. Daniel is lucky to have you. He was smart enough to choose you over us. I hope someday he can forgive me. And you're stronger than any of us. Thank you for not destroying us completely when you could have. You showed more mercy than we deserved. With respect and regret, Hector. I showed the letter to Daniel. He read it silently, tears running down his face. Do you think he's sincere? He asked. I think he's trying to be, I replied. Real change takes time. Actions, not just words. Do you ever want me to try to rebuild a relationship with him? That's your decision, not mine, I said firmly. I'll support you in whatever you decide, but I won't push either way. He's your father, your pain, your choice. Daniel carefully folded the letter. Maybe someday, he said, but not today. Today I'm still healing. 3 years after that Sunday that changed our lives, Daniel and I are in a very different place. He launched his own consulting firm, far from the shadow of the Montero name. It's thriving, not because he has family connections, but because he's brilliant and hardworking. I expanded my graphic design business. I now have 3 employees and clients across the country. We moved to a bigger house. We adopted a dog named Justice because dark humor helps us process trauma. Daniel slowly rebuilt his relationship with Hector. They meet once a month in sessions supervised by a therapist. It's painful, it's difficult, but it's progress. Marco got engaged to his girlfriend, a wonderful woman who works at an NGO. He asked us to be his wedding sponsors. I cried when he asked. Grandma Beatrice passed away peacefully in her sleep 6 months ago. She left me her collection of antique jewelry with a note. For the granddaughter I chose, not the one given to me by blood. Elena. Elena is alone. Carla moved to another city, apparently embarrassed by the scandals. The latest rumors say Elena sold the San Elias Hills mansion and moved to a more modest apartment. Sometimes I think about contacting her, but I'm not ready yet. And me, I finally made peace with everything. It wasn't easy. I had my own nightmares, my own therapy, my own moments of doubt. There were nights when I woke up with my heart racing, reliving that confrontation. But I learned something important. Standing up for the truth has a cost. It always does. But the cost of living in lies is much greater. Was it worth it? I still ask myself that question, and the answer is always the same. Yes. Because now, when I look in the mirror, I recognize the person looking back at me. I'm not trying to fit into someone else's mold. I'm not silencing my voice to keep the peace. I'm Sarah, graphic designer, wife, fighter, survivor, and finally, gloriously free. Some battles destroy you. Others rebuild you stronger than you ever were. That Sunday, my in-laws tried to destroy me. Instead, they forced me to discover exactly who I was. And it turned out I was much stronger than any of us imagined.